Hello, welcome to the HVAC Guide for Homeowners live show, where we go live every Tuesday night answering your questions. Sometimes we're joined by others in the chat in the trade that know answers to questions that I don't. Let's be honest, that's not hard to do. Before we get started, I've had a crazy week, guys. I was not even sure that we were going to do our show this week. I found out, we had Clifton Beck on last week, and then he moved some mountains, and I had to get some things in order, and here I am. I'm at HVAC Excellence, streaming from Las Vegas, Nevada, and because of Clifton, I'm using all of his stuff. That's why things look different. And I've got a real treat for you guys tonight as far as our guest goes. But before we get to all the fun, let's take a moment to pay the bills and thank the sponsor of tonight's show.
Daikin Fit is so quiet, you'll definitely notice by not really noticing at all. Save space, save energy, save interruptions. Enjoy the game-changing efficiency of the Daikin Fit. It cools, dehumidifies, and heats so efficiently, it even keeps your energy bills comfortable. Daikin Fit.
Tonight's guest is an HVAC expert with over 40 years of experience. He's served on multiple advisory boards and is a known expert in our industry. He's currently an author, podcast host, and vice president at a company called Service Logic, a company that's the largest privately held network of HVAC and mechanical services companies. I lost my breath. Your bio is so long, sir. In the U.S. and Canada. Everyone, please welcome Greg Crumpton. We're live.
Well, Josh, that's quite the intro, my friend. When you get old, you have this big resume. So it doesn't mean you've done that much more by ratio. It just means you've done that much more. Glad to be here with you tonight, man. So glad to connect with you. Clifton was so kind to let us borrow his setup, and wow, what a setup.
Yeah. I for those of you that don't know where we're at, so I don't know, Greg, you might even know better than I do of where we're at, but we're at HVAC Excellence.
So we are where all of the HVAC, not all, many of the HVAC contractors from around the country come and they receive training so that then they can go home and then parlay that training on at a local level. So you have union instructors here, you have technical school instructors, you have industry professionals. So it's kind of a conglomeration of people who are going to the next level. And, like any other unique little funky trade, this is where we do it. So proud to be here, proud to meet you out here today. And
likewise.
Yeah, just a great conference, great people. You can feel the buzz even from people over here heckling us.
Yeah. I'm not used to that. So,
well, I've known this gentleman for a long time, so I'm good with it. Good with it.
Clifton told me that HVAC Excellence, he said that AHR is where everyone introduces the new products, and then HVAC Excellence is where they come to learn how to work on the new stuff.
That's well said. I was there this year, and God, it was so huge. It was probably the biggest show, AHR, ASHRAE, whatever you like to call it, that I've seen since pre-COVID. I mean, it really popped this year. And it was, 3 or 5 weeks ago, somewhere in that ballpark. But to, go and see the breadth of that and then come back here, to me, this is more precision. It's more surgical so that you get to spend more quality time as opposed to just having to run around like a psycho, which I love because that's kind of my natural spider monkey, setup. But it's really cool to be able to come look at stuff on a table, have one-on-one conversation, and then go back to your locale and teach what you learned here. So great opportunity and a great effort by ESCO.
Absolutely. Let me just go through our chat real quick. Gary, good to see you, buddy. As always. And Brian, a couple of our regulars,
nice.
Greg.
Hello, guys.
And then CB says, something very kind. So thank you, CB. Hearts to you. Bang. Adrian, good to see you. And do you know Tony Mormino?
I know Tony. He's a fellow Carolinian and just a friend, but more so, he's an excellent HVAC facilitator, teacher, runs his own podcast, runs HVAC TV channel on YouTube. Just super guy. So glad to see Tony with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been on my show before, and we
had common blood. We didn't even know it.
That's right. We're all connected in some way.
Love it.
And of course, hello to Emery, another one of our regular folks. I know we read your bio, but you and I've had a few conversations already. Can you take me back a little bit? Just share some of those stories and how you got to where we are.
Yeah, man, I'd love to. It's a 43-year journey. 43 years, June 1st of this year. And I began as a technician, going through a union apprenticeship school in the Atlanta, Georgia market. Second generation HVAC technician. My dad was in the industry, worked for a great company. I worked at that company as well. My dad was influential. I've talked about it in the book. He was my instructor. He was my dad. He was my boss. He was my fishing buddy. He did everything. I mean, it was just really cool. Good, cool relationship. So as I grew into the industry, I found out that I really, I liked the industry, and B, I was decent at it. I've done a little bit of everything. I was a tech. I did project sales. I ran a division for a company up in the Carolinas. And then in 1999, probably about the year you were born.
I'm not quite that young, but
somewhere in that ballpark. My wife and I opened our own company. And for 15 years, we built that company, commercial and industrial, with a lean toward mission critical and data centers, because that had been one little niche where my customers were and where my affinity was. I enjoy that piece of the work. And so we ran that company for 15 years. And then we sold it to Service Logic. And at that time, Service Logic was, a name that some people had heard of, but it wasn't anything big. And in fact, our company, we were number 8 on the platform. So fast forward now, I've been there 11 years, which is really hard to believe. We've now done 140 or so acquisitions, and there are 55 operating brands. And I get the pleasure and the fortune to be able to interact with all those folks, 7,500 people nationwide and in Canada. And I just get to hang out with really cool people now and go to trade shows and make sure that I know what I think that our company is going to be getting into in the coming years. Now, no crystal ball, obviously, or I would be, up at Wall Street doing something else. But we all know how we're going to catch a call June 1st of this year. And we've got a pretty good idea of what June 1st of 2026 looks like. But we don't really know what 2029 looks like. So what refrigerants, what platforms are going to be using, what tools, how are we going to dispatch, all that nuts and bolts stuff. I try to look forward to and make sure that we're at least aware and cognizant of what's coming down the highway.
I'm glad you brought that up, because something I say on my show all the time, but you've been in the trade way longer than I have. And something I've said is I've never seen our industry like this. Yeah. Like, it seemed like the first 10 years, at least, that I was in this industry, we were still using the same technologies that we used back in the 70s and 80s, Absolutely. The same refrigerants, the same everything. And then fast forward to today, I mean, SEER changes, the refrigerant changes, the technology changes. I mean, it's unbelievable how fast our industry is changing.
Josh, it's only starting. That's the really fun part for people like you and I who like to think ahead and look forward to stuff. It scares other people, to be quite honest, because it is so rapid and because it's so I want to use this in the right way, so I'm going to use the word carefully. It's non-discriminatory. Technology is there to make something better, because technology for the sake of technology is worthless. But the way that technology works, and if you look back at Moore's law in just basic IT capacity, in every 18 months it doubles and gets better. Our industry, I feel like, is going through that, but on steroids. I mean, we're freaking booming. I was with one of our sponsors here today, FM Hero, a refrigerant management tool platform, if you will, and we were just talking about the data that flies around a rooftop unit doing the maintenance now, with Bluetooth connectivity, cellular connectivity, maybe Wi-Fi from the property. And why are we not, I guess, streamlining that data and bringing it into a common point, rather than having these disparate systems that are each taking its own little piece of the technology and displaying it, but on 3 different screens? Let's work hard toward integration. And we are. I mean, people are doing that now, but man, it's so much fun. But the big elephant in the room, or in our cocoon, if you will, today,
Yeah.
we don't have enough skilled labor to back up that technology. And you have to have both. AI, and I apologize for my voice.
Oh no, you're good.
I was dealing with a little pollen at home on the East Coast. So I get out here and it's like negative -4% humidity. So I'm drinking a lot of
I'm
water.
right there with you.
But so you have to have both. You have to have the technology, and you have to have people to implement technology solutions for the betterment of the customer, because that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing it. But really a lot of opportunities for people and tech right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's really shed a light on some of those, I don't know if we want to say problems, but certainly challenges.
Well, they can be a problem. Think about this. If you're running a company, when you ran a company, and sometimes you had too much work, and that was always a good thing, kinda,
Right.
until it wasn't, because you didn't have enough people.
Mm-hmm.
And so our industry, the HVAC, is specifically in the service arena. You either have too many people or too much work. There's never the perfect harmony.
Right.
But you always operate kind of like a sine wave. You're in the band.
Mm-hmm.
When you get outside the band is where, you're in the kitchen floor crying at 2 a.m. of either how am I going to make payroll, or how am I going to get all this work done?
Uh-huh.
And the opportunity right now is to attract more people into our industry, into the HVAC sector, and make a career for a lot of people, make a home where they want to have a career. And we're just it's the perfect time for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's certainly more opportunities today if somebody really wants to excel than ever, for sure.
Well, I have FOMO. All right. Because when I walk through the trade floor today, and I look at all of the innovative technology and the cool tools. I mean, I went to see Jesse Stewart at the NAVTAC table, and I'm thinking, why did I not have all this cool stuff?
Uh-huh.
I had a wore out bender and whatever, but the opportunity to work with technology and cool hand tools and purpose-built stuff that makes our industry better, it's just like the ultimate dream for somebody to walk in here now into an environment to where, you can really say that this is top shelf. This is not anywhere close to a second tier career, second tier opportunity. This, dude, is like where it's happening.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to be soon bum rushing the doors to get in here. You and I talked earlier. 17% increase in trade school applications over the last couple of years.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah. Well, we need it.
But why? All right. So we think about, you and I are consumers. We're trying to get our car serviced, our roof fixed, our plumbing done at home, whatever. You have to wait on a list The days of picking up Bob, the plumber's phone and saying, "Hey, dude, can you run over here?" Gone, because Bob's retired. He didn't have a succession plan, so now a company is in that spot, and you get put in the queue just like the rest of the public. And when you have, as we talked about a while ago, with your fictitious / not fictitious company, when you have too much work, you have to schedule it. And you know, the world is a little bit biased in how they understand our trade, because a plumber is not a plumber is not a plumber. They're specialty skills. The closer that you can keep your properly trained people on the proper type of equipment, the better your company runs from an efficiency standpoint and a homeowner and owner's perspective, because you're able to fix it the first time, which is the goal.
Yeah. We got a question here in the chat. Ryan says, do you think the new technology reduces the need for highly skilled techs? Maybe the new tech diagnoses the units and tech is only there to service it and not diagnose anything.
That's a great question, Ryan. It gets talked about a lot. I mean, the answer is going to be a hybrid solution. There's going to be that opportunity. I think parts availability will dictate a lot of that. So if Ryan's on the job and Ryan's the top tier guy, and he finds the problem and has quick access to the part, sure, knock it out while you're there. You're billable. Let's keep it rolling. If that part is next day error or second day, like so many are now, because people don't, I'll put an asterisk on that. People don't have parts available as quickly as they used to. So somebody else has to come back. Maybe that's where you bring in that less experienced tech, let him or her do that replacement, that repair, to gain that experience while Ryan's out doing another diagnostic. That makes sense. Back to the asterisk. Nobody can stock the parts anymore because there's so darn many different parts. If you take a XYZ condensing unit of 3 or 4 vintages of years, all those parts don't carry over. Right. So I don't think it's fair for us as an industry to beat up on the OEMs, as much as I enjoy that at times, especially if I have to compete for service. Not a big fan of that. But, on the parts, we simply can't have local distribution on every square mile of the U.S. for immediate access. I mean, it's just physically impossible. But
yeah, I think we're already seeing an industry where people are trying to create more DIY plug and play products. So there's that, but we're also moving in a direction where our technicians are going to be highly, highly skilled and will probably demand a premium price as well.
And so be it. That's the law that comes with free enterprise, is that people set the market price. So, doctors right now don't make as much as doctors used to, because there's more doctors and there's more acute care facilities. When you have a shortage of electricians, when you have a shortage of HVAC people, plumbers, welders, roofers, you name it, anything that has to get done, you're going to have to pay a premium, but you have to do your homework to know, am I paying the premium for the right company, or am I paying a premium because they have HVAC connected to their name? Because, everything's not equal.
Yeah.
Just because a lady or a guy can pass a certification on XYZ equipment does not make them as proficient as their peers may be.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So a lot of, it really comes down to hand-to-hand combat of what am I getting for my money? And that's why it's so important to build rapport and build relationships with your trades provider, whether it be at home or at work. So if you happen to change jerseys because you're making $5 more an hour, you're still going to be my guy, because I trust you more so than I have to worry about where you're working.
Yeah. So I have a question that I haven't asked in a while. I used to ask it of every guest, but I just can't wait to hear your answer.
Matt, you've got me a little worried now.
What's the craziest horror story that you can tell us from all your years in experience?
Work-wise.
Well, I mean, I don't know if
we'll
you got some other ones too.
We'll go work-wise. I may have a career in politics, but that's not true. There's been a lot of them. But one in particular that stands out, and I think it stands out because it happened at a time in my life that was really transformational, where I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. There was a lady that ran our construction division.
Ryan's from Charlotte. That's why I'm giving him a thumbs down.
Which Ryan is that? Does he have a last name, or do we know it? Or does it matter?
Yeah, it's up to him if he wants to share it, but I don't know it.
All right. Hey, Ryan. So we're working at a hospital, and our company was. And about 2 days after I moved to kind of tool and rebuild this service operation, this lady comes into my office and she says, "Hey, we put this system in about 2 years ago, and it's never worked right. What do you think?" I'm like, "Well, tell me a little more about it." So anyway, we go out to this job site. They had put a makeup air unit, a DOAS unit, on a surgical suite that did not have enough cooling capacity for the outside air.
Got it.
So the horror story really was around how it impacted the scheduling and the dollars that were in play around getting the surgical suite functional. People are kind of squirrely when you start messing with their money. And so we wound up with a solution. It worked. The customer wound up getting happy. And once we get off air, I'll tell you the punchline to the story that the building manager said to this lady who I really enjoyed working with. It wasn't very nice, but it was just one of those jobs where you're scratching your head going, "Oh my God, how did we get here, and who approved this? How did we order this equipment? Nobody thought." This is in Charlotte, and it gets really hot and humid there. But I digress. But yeah, that's one of them.
Okay. The one I always tell is I was working for this company, and that company, we did HVAC and electrical.
Okay.
So I was putting lights in a strip club. Now it wasn't open. I was the only soul in the entire place. But there I was putting lights up, and my boss had come by. We were tracing a circuit. So we had, I don't know, I just call it a circuit tracer. I don't know if it has a fancier name, but where you plug in and you got to go find the breaker.
Right,
and,
yeah.
So we're chasing this circuit, and we find a hidden door that we went through to see if the panel was back in this area. And there were all these rooms with only a bed in every single room. And so that was
more
the
than
craziest.
a strip club, sir.
That was an experience. So we hurried up, found the panel, and got on out of there.
Yeah, I've never run into anything like that. So you may win the prize on that one.
I've actually got a couple similar to that, but I'll keep them to myself for now.
Yeah, I was telling a story to a friend of mine the other day. A good friend of mine who's a mutual friend of the guy I was telling the story. We were working on a Saturday morning in a very nice uptown Atlanta office building. We're waist deep in the ceiling tile. We're having a ball. We're cutting up. But we're getting our work done. He and I worked together a lot, and we worked all morning. We were replacing heat exchangers and Carrier water source heat pumps. They had a bad run, and the heat exchangers were failing. So we got our work done. We had the vacuum pumps running, so we took off to lunch. We come back from lunch. We've been there by ourselves all morning. We didn't think anything about it. And my friend got back up on the ladder, and he started with the same old hoopla, the dirty chokes, the whole deal. Well, like 10 minutes after we had been back working, we hear this. Somebody's knocking on his ladder. And this little bitty sweet lady said, "Sir, I know you don't know that I'm here, but I wanted to tell you that while y'all were gone, I came in and I'm sitting right down the hall working with my door open.
Oh my gosh.
And so,
and I've heard some stories now.
It was pretty funny. One time in my life, I've never been guilty. That felt good to watch him, kind of get busted, but he was as red as that lanyard around your neck. But just, those are fun stories, but the common theme is that I was with good people, and this industry is chock full of them. And funny stories that happen with good people tend to stick.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know.
Oh, let me tell you one then. This one's not dirty.
All right.
This one, so I had started working at this company. It was my first real job, right? So you get out of high school, you had some part-time jobs, and then it was my first real job. And I was working under one of my very good friends today, but back then he was my boss, and I'd only been there a month. And they asked us on Friday, hey, do you want to work the weekend? We got weekend work.
Yeah.
And we were like, sure. So we go to this job site where, everyone else I didn't know. He was the only person I knew. And there was this guy there, and the guy I'm talking about is Forrest, was my boss. Forrest is like, yeah, that dude's crazy. I'm just letting you know he's crazy. I'm like, okay. So for the entire day, the guy's name was Gary. Gary, I thought he had Tourette's. Like, he was like screaming, and he would scream random names just out of the blue. He'd be on the top of a 12-foot ladder. And of course, I was the helper on the job. So I'm running and grabbing tools and stuff. And I just hear him screaming. And so finally, at the end of the day, Forrest says to me, yeah, I told him your name was Charlie. That's why he's been screaming Charlie all day. Charlie!
You can't beat it. You can't beat it. I've looked for a left-handed pipe wrench before, so I get it.
Yep.
All good people stories, though. That's to me the common thread of the industry is good people, and we see people walk by here that I've known for years, and they're solid, and they're out here to learn how to go home, and it's hard to beat.
Yeah,
it really is.
Since we're on that topic, I don't know that this particular, and I could be wrong, and maybe I've been in a cave, but I'm not sure this conference gets as much notoriety or love as other conferences. So if somebody is in our trade, what could we say? Because there's other options, but the reason I'm here is a lady that's been on our show, Louise Keller from UEI. Mm-hmm. She told me last year, she goes, if you can't go to anything else, if you can't make it to AHR, if you can't make it to, the NCI, all the great events that are in our industry, she's like, go to that one. That's the one. If you haven't been, go to that one. And I have to agree now. I've learned a lot.
Well, Charlie, it's the right group of people that are coalesced into one spot that all have a common need and a common desire. If you go to AHR, you've got a plethora of different types of groups of people there. You got 60,000 people that were there this year. How many of those were educators? I don't know, 2,000 maybe. Mm-hmm. So the percentages that the AHR group has to kind of craft the part of the show for that crowd, it's got to be difficult. Mm. And then you have the people that are going there to see the advances in energy efficiency. Then you have the group that's going to see the latest in ductless mini splits. So you have all these niche verticals that the big shows, in my opinion, they have to try to hit a broader audience. Mm-hmm. This, to me, and I was speaking with Fallon, we talked earlier from research, the people who make the incredible blue leak lock that I love so well and love the smell of it. We were just talking about the show, and they, as vendors, have better conversations, but not as many conversations. Mm-hmm. So nobody's walking by her leak lock trying to pick up tubes of leak lock to take to their kid. Mm-hmm. They're taking leak lock home and showing their students how to properly apply it to threads.
Yeah.
So it's a different mindset of what's weird is it's in Vegas.
Yeah.
And God knows how many times I've come out here, and these days I don't drink, smoke, or gamble.
Right.
So I'm kind of an odd duck here. But what's unique about it is that the people that come here for a purpose. Yes, we have fun and all that stuff, but when those doors open and these classrooms get full, game on.
Yeah.
They're here to learn because their job or their passion is to go home and teach. And you can't do, in my opinion, 60,000 people that kind of justice like you can do this size of a more targeted group.
It's almost like, sir, I mean, maybe I'm not right on this, but it's almost like they would maybe want to keep this kind of small.
Hey, there's a lot of books written on intentionally staying small and staying in your lane, as people like to say these days. You can't be everything to everybody and be really good at it.
That's true.
So if you know that educators are your niche and you can cater to them and you're increasing your attendance year over year, you've got corporate sponsors coming on board like Daikin, things are going well. So let's keep going that direction. And it seems to be working quite well, because what Eugene and those guys have put on from ESCO is, I mean, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And I pay to come. I'm not getting paid to see that.
Yeah.
Because I always get something. 43 years. Do you think, oh, what am I going to learn? But I've learned today some stuff I never even thought about, because I never had thought about it.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to come as a professional. You have to keep yourself current. You can't just lay back, because what worked and got us here won't work and keep us going to where we're headed.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. We've had a couple more questions come in. Ryan always likes to ask the tough questions.
Good for Ryan.
Do you think there is a chance that mechanical services like HVAC are pricing out more people? Seems like every trade is becoming a luxury with pricing. How can ordinary people afford these services?
Well,
it's a good question.
It's a point right now too, and to Ryan, good question, Ryan. The economy is at a unique place.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about edge for a while now, but to Ryan's point, services are high.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the grocery store, they're paying more for that service tech to keep that frozen food frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch my grocery store a lot, just because I live close. I'm in a golf cart, so I'm there a lot. So I'm always like seeing what's going on with their service aspect.
Yeah.
They're paying more. Therefore, that cost is going to get moved over into the goods. The challenge is paying people well enough to where they want to work on the equipment and they don't get frustrated with the hours that are required to work in this industry, the extreme temperatures, hot or cold, and sometimes dealing with the public is not fun. So people are going to be compensated fairly, and fairly is, as I said a while ago, whatever the market dictates.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I'm going to have air conditioning in my house. I don't want to live without it.
Yeah,
it's no fun.
Mm-hmm.
So do I start, if I'm on a budget, do I start reprioritizing like my home services cost? And to Ryan's point, it's not just HVAC, it's roofing, it's any tool related service. Healthcare, same way.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is having to do a CT for her migraine headaches, and that technician's making a lot of money that does that work now.
Yeah.
We have insurance, but you still pay, and that's not getting cheaper. So I think we're at a point in the trades to where until we've got a 35-year window of kids that did not get exposed to shop classes in public school, excuse me, until we can get that 35-year gap moved through our work labor pool, we're going to be shorthanded for a while. And that's why I said this morning to Clifton, if every craftsperson, craftsman, craftswoman would grab a kid under each arm and help them and walk them into a trade, or at least make them aware of the trade, we would be much better off. And then to Ryan's point, supply and demand kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have more workers, the price of that worker's skills go down. Therefore, it impacts the end user more by pricing being less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember
that's not a good answer for Ryan.
No,
but I think it's fact.
Yeah. I know we were talking earlier about, just in general, there's always been this, I don't know if we want to say culture or stigma behind kids graduating high school and what their next steps are going to be.
Yeah.
And, I have friends that did go to college. They got lots of debt, and this isn't a flex. It's just a fact. They don't make what I make in this industry. And I feel bad for them. Like, they thought they took the right road, and I maybe even thought they took the right road, and I still wasn't taking that path. And cause I didn't go to college. Did you go to college?
No.
Yeah. So I feel guilty at times, cause I'm like, man, you should be doing great over there. But it's supply and demand. Our industry is well, people that are good at it are worth a premium maybe.
When the World War II fighters came home from war, they wanted better for their kids. That's where we started.
Mm-hmm.
Because and my grandparents, both of my granddads were in the war, World War II we're talking about.
Wow.
And they wanted better for their families.
Mm-hmm.
Part of better meant you work your butt off and you are able to send your kid to college.
Mm-hmm.
The kid really didn't have a say in that for a long time.
Yeah.
It was naturally assumed that you were going to go to college
mm-hmm.
if your family had enough finances to help pay for it, or, unlike me, you were really smart in school and got a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
It was the norm.
Yeah.
And the people who didn't were people like me who hung out at shop class, maybe slipped around the back, smoked a cigarette here and there. But we were kind of like the outcast, and we weren't college-bound material. So there was a stigma behind it, but it was self-created. It's not now, because after 35 or 40 years of people being told every waking moment, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. And I'm talking, I come from a family of educators. I've got a sister with a doctorate degree that is so smart, she could tell you the biological name of every plant in that lobby out there. It took her a long time to get to a point of earning the same amount of money I earned with a 4-year apprenticeship and then some night schooling on topics that I wanted to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it is what it is, but she chose her route. I chose her route. I don't feel guilty about it, because we both made our choices. But to your point, a lot of kids never had a choice. They just, if they didn't go to college, they, in their eyes, were going to be a failure in the family's eyes.
I think that's still today. That still goes on.
No doubt. It still goes on. I think the opportunity for kids to say, I'm not sure that I want to go to college. And I think there are a lot of parents waking up to the fact you don't need to go to college,
mm-hmm.
because parents listen to podcasts. I'm on LinkedIn. Do you think I'm appealing to fifth graders on LinkedIn? No.
I hope not.
I'm trying to, yeah, weirdo. I thought this was a family show. I'm trying to help bring awareness to parents, so parents can have those conversations with Susan and Joey that college isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
I love college for the right people for the right reason.
Yeah.
I love trade school for the right people for the right reason. 2 different paths, same degree of success, because we all measure success ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
There's no artificial barrier that we hit and we go, oh, we made it.
Yeah.
Made it for you means one thing, made it for me means another. So you have to strive toward what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that may or may not be college. So let's give people the opportunity to be able to make that bifurcation when it's right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at what happens in Europe, and as funny as it is, the 51st state of Canada right now, they just passed a law that Canada did. In the ninth grade, they can now choose if they want a traditional education or if they want a trades education. So I think that's progress. I think Canada does a really good job of educating their trades workers with the Red Seal program and everything that they do for apprenticeship. I think we're a little bit behind, but I think we're kind of like a hit with a bullet. We're coming hard because we realize this is a big deal. And I've said this lately, Josh. People may think I'm overreacting. I think it's a national security issue because if we can't care for our own infrastructure of our country, that's not a good thing.
It's a good point. I don't even think that enough folks think of that, but that's a really good point. I will admit though, I feel like, especially if these kids in Canada are making a decision at the age of 14, a decision that could affect the rest of their life. Now, of course, they could choose one path and then maybe decide to go another one.
Absolutely.
But I think that's interesting because I remember as a 17-year-old kid making a couple decisions that literally changed my entire life, not knowing it at the time.
One doesn't preclude the other.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a good friend who's a Canadian, Matt Schweitzer. He's in the industry, has a PhD. The guy went to college 8 years, 12 years, whatever, did not like it. And now he works for, Max, Climmer. They're an Aon rep in the Toronto market. He's like the smartest dude on that equipment that you could possibly imagine because he came into the industry knowing as an adult. Because, I can say this because I'm a guy. Guys can't think till we're about 28. So when you come in as a more seasoned human and then you really learn.
Yeah.
As opposed to coming in as a kid like I did. But you can go to college at night or you can go to trade school at night while you got your day job that you're not sure if that's your forever job or not.
I think that's probably the biggest problem with college is, like, I have friends that went to school, they got a bunch of debt, and then they ended up not even going into a career that they got their degree in, especially when I think you made the joke earlier that there are some degrees that no one would ever go into that.
The history of Zimbabwe.
Yeah, you can't start a business on that.
Yeah, that's hard, but it will get you a job at Starbucks. And to make $20 an hour as a barista with 150 grand of debt hanging over your head is not a spot that you want to find yourself in unless that's the spot you want to find yourself in.
Right.
But there are ways that you can do both. I mean, but it's a matter of discipline. It's like any other thing. If you're gonna go, then get in and go. Let's not oscillate. Go to college, get your degree, whatever you want to do, but do something with it.
Yeah.
Same way with our industry.
Yeah.
If you're going to be an air conditioning tech, be a really good one.
Yeah.
Understand vapor compression cycle, like so cold it just oozes out of you. And that's where I love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mormino, if he's still on here, he loves that stuff. The guy's on vacation taking pictures of rooftop units, asking who can spot what's wrong with this unit. But that is passion, and we need the passionate people in our industry as sparks and as igniters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this place is chock full of them right here. We're in amongst rarefied air right here.
Yeah. I want to show these guys something real quick. So those of you might not hear me very well because I'm going to move this mic, but they rented like a I don't even know what to call this. It's a closet or something.
It's like a kid's playhouse.
So I'm going to turn the camera. So this is, if you guys can see, you probably can't see real well, but out there over the top of this TV, that is a hallway in the middle of a Vegas casino, right? And it's been great. Like I think the facility is amazing. They serve 2 meals a day out here, and it's been great.
This is the South Point, and I love giving props to South Point because they understand hospitality in my mind.
Yeah, I've been impressed.
It's run by the Gaughan family, Brendan Gaughan and his family. His dad started it. They do a phenomenal job. It's not on the strip, which is what I like. Because you get it to the airport, you go away from the crowd.
Yeah.
And you come here.
Yeah.
And then you're in a cool crowd.
Yeah.
So I love it down here.
Yeah.
I'm glad they do it here. But yeah, great facility. And a lot of air conditioning in this building.
Yeah.
It works well.
It does. Yeah. We have not had to worry about that. That's a good point.
We have been cool as cucumbers.
Since we're doing okay on time, I know our job is not to promote ESCO or this event, but
it's hard not to.
Well, and we're here, and you know, I just want to give credit where credit's due. They haven't paid us to say anything other than letting us borrow this booth, but can you just take a second, because you this is my first year, so can you take maybe a second and share what some of the classes and some of the material, because I walked through the door and it was information through a fire hose.
Yeah.
I mean, you are getting the meat potatoes here.
So over the last couple of years, they've developed an app, and the app has all the classes available. So today, I'll just use today as an example. I sat in a class on basically communicating with your fellow worker, and people think, wow, what a soft class. Like I want to talk about refrigerant, but until you learn how to communicate, it's difficult. And think about communication right now in our workplace, Josh. We've got 5 generations in our workplace. We got 18-year-old and we got a 68-plus-year-old. If I want to tell you to get off your duff, grab the broom and sweep up this pile of, duct scraps or whatever, I can't say to 5 different generations of people the same words in order to get the desired outcome.
Yeah.
I've got to know how to talk to those folks like they want to be heard, or like they need to be heard. So great class today using the DISC profile, which I'm a big advocate of, DISC. If you've ever done that, it's a good tool. Johnstone uses that tool, I believe, as well for some of their assessments internally. I sat in another class on A2L refrigerants. A2L is one of the hot topics right now. We've changed refrigerants because of the global warming potential, because of greenhouse gas warming and climate change. Regardless of your political thoughts on that, it doesn't matter. That's the law at this moment.
Right. So
we have to keep educating ourselves. We have to keep getting better on those topics. Then you come over here, and I'm pointing to the wall, of a whole showcase full of new and current technology. So at break and at lunch, you're walking through this I don't know, probably 15,000 square foot facility of all these different vendors. Then after lunch, you go back to another plethora of classes. And I haven't counted all of them, but just today, there were like 40 different sessions I could have gone to.
Well, and that's the thing that I just want to touch on while you're saying that. It wasn't that you didn't have to go to the communicating class, because I didn't. At any given moment, there were, I think, 6 classes going
simultaneous.
On. And so you could, while you were in that class, I think my first class today was troubleshooting inverter systems and the EEVs. And then, you leave that class. And so we were both in 2 different classes, and you leave those classes, and now there's 6 more classes to choose. And it's so much.
Think about the logistics behind that.
Oh my gosh.
And that's why I like to brag on what they've done here, because it's flawless. the classes start on time. They're video. There's great audio in every class. You don't have, somebody in the back can't hear or what have you. But the breadth of the learning opportunities is what I find so remarkable. And you and I talked a little bit this afternoon about how different geographies have different needs. Heat pumps might be really big in this area. Geothermal might be really big in this area. Solar may be big in this area. So we're able to go and get the training that most suits you, because remember, the goal of this is you're going back home to teach. This is not just for your knowledge. So I would love to know more about, using heat pump loops in abandoned wells in Wyoming, but I don't live out there.
Right.
So, but Craig Crumpton, he might want to know, Chris Crumpton, but it's just unique, and it's totally customizable by the app. You select your class, it's automatically scheduled. I mean, it's just a beautiful tool. But technology, personalities, generational development, current trends, energy efficiency, you name it, they had a class for it.
Yeah. It's
and they start early. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
6 a.m.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant they were supposed to start at 12 p.m. and they were starting at 11:55.
They start early in the day.
Yeah. Which for me, it's not early because I'm still on East Coast time.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Until you go home.
Yeah. Until you go home.
It goes a half day, but
yeah,
it's been phenomenal. And, I think it's phenomenal because of the passion. I really do. The instructors that are here instructing, yes, they're getting paid, but I saw people delivering content today that they would have done for free.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. So, before I forget, because we're not done yet, but can you do me a favor and just plug, where can folks find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Greg Crumpton, Did you
forget?
Greg Crumpton.
You changed your name. It used to be Bob.
Bob Crumpton. Great guy. Was not an HVAC guy. But Greg Crumpton, you can find me on LinkedIn, gregcrumpton.com. I do air conditioning stuff. I also host a podcast called Straight Outta Crumpton. We've done about 150 episodes.
I'll be checking that out. I can't wait.
We have a ball, man. And it's a lot of this. Josh, we have good conversations. We talk about things that people might be talking about in the parts house or might be talking about in their Sunday school class. We've got a book out there called Deep Knowledge. It's 221 pages of stuff that I hope saves somebody a headache, because I've already lived through that headache, or I lived through the victory. So it's chronicled. They're short chapters. They don't compound, so you can pick the book up and read chapter 17 or chapter 34. It doesn't matter.
Interesting.
I've got another one coming out, but the first one's out right now. You can go to deepknowledge.me, the landing page for the book, and it's available at Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all the good stuff. But that's kind of where I hang out, and I work. I actually get out and try to help our companies, of which we have 55 or so, and I'm interacting with those guys and ladies continuously, daily, and it might be something that, I'm the only corporate guy who's kind of still blue collar. You know what I mean? Like, I'm probably the only guy at the board table with a set of Red Wing boots that have been worn lately.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I'm able to connect with our folks at a level that is unique. And I come from a perspective of a technician, of a sales project manager, an owner, because I ran a company, a business unit manager, because I ran that for another company. So I just have a lot of different perspectives that, as people go through their careers or their days, they hit these bumps. And sometimes you don't want to tell your boss. You need somebody to go, dude, what do you think?
Yeah.
And maybe it's just us having a virtual cup of coffee. Maybe I fly somewhere and have a conversation, depending on the need. But I'm here to help our companies get better. And I'm here to help our industry remain strong and get stronger because I so much believe in it.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I've got one more question for you.
Is it a trick question?
No, it's the same question I ask all my guests.
Okay.
Or at least most of them. But before we get, and I can't wait to hear your answer because I've never had someone with your background answer it. Normally it's, most of us are residential guys on our show. So, that said, we all know there are some bad apples in our industry, whether we want to admit it or not, there are, and they make us all look bad. But if you're in our chat and you know a good apple, you know a good heating and air, electrical, or plumbing company, drop their name in the chat and where they're located, and we'll highlight them on the screen. You never know. You might share some love with them, or you might share more than love and actually send some business their way if someone in your area happens to see your message. So drop those in the chat and I'll highlight those, bring them up on the screen. But while they're doing that, my question to you is, if you think of whoever your closest family member is that doesn't live with you, okay? So whoever that is, or a friend, but just whoever that closest person is, if they called you tomorrow and said, hey, I need to buy a new heating and air system, what's the advice you're going to give them?
Ooh, man, you gave me a tough one.
Oh, okay, good.
So we're talking commercial.
Okay.
Are we or are we not?
Well, I mean, that's why I wanted to get, that's why I said your perspective might be a little different, because I get the same cliche 3 answers from most of our guests, that are all residential folks. So I thought maybe you might bring a little different perspective on that.
Inverter driven water source heat pumps.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons.
Okay.
Energy efficiency is great. Anytime you can run water cooled equipment is good. You can do a lot with that heated water that's good for your house, like preheat your hot water, what have you. You don't have the unit sitting outside banging on and off while you're trying to get on the Weber grill and flip your hamburgers.
There's that.
You don't hear it. And it's cool because you're dealing with hydronics. You're dealing with heat exchange at a level that most people may have not thought about. But it's just a really cool science. I love the inverter-driven technology. And, I know you hear people talk about it a lot, VRV or VRF. But when you couple that with ground source or lake or river, man, that's a sweet system with a full-blown control system that integrates your whole house. So when you hit it big, and Joe Rogan buys your podcast, you and I will we'll sit down and design your house for you, how you want it. But that's really like, if I'm thinking about my cool fantasy car, that's what I would do for a cool house.
So this is probably going to be a dumb question because I should know the answer, but I'm aware of geothermal. So what I would maybe call water to air technology. Yeah. And now we know, because of the refrigerant changes and all of that, that we have this European air to water technology coming, but I'm not aware of too many companies making water to water technology, like geothermal outside, hydronic type coils inside. Am I wrong on that?
No, and I'm not talking about that.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking.
I'm so ignorant.
You and I are going to work on that tonight. All right. We'll go get a burger. No, I'm talking about air to water.
Okay. Yeah.
With refrigerant putting in between.
I'm going to the Daikin Altherma class tomorrow.
Me too.
I cannot wait. Because I think that not only is it a game changer, not only is it a glimpse of the future, but Daikin's a sponsor on our podcast, so I'm okay in saying this. And that is they are one of this is nothing new to them. They've been doing the Altherma specifically over in Europe for years. It's just
new to us.
Yeah.
Because, we left Europe, so we get all the secondary ideas later, apparently. But just look at what Daikin has done. They came into the educational market and said, we're going to show you all the good stuff. Jeff Bledsoe works with all the contractors to make sure that they're trained. I mean, they're doing some really, really good stuff. And I've got dear friends at these other companies, but they haven't stepped up to the education level that I've seen the partnership with ESCO that Daikin has. So kudos to Jeff and his crew.
Well, the one thing I'll say about Daikin too is I've always said they don't major in the minors. And I think a part of that has been, I've seen other manufacturers here. Like Daikin's not like sponsoring this and saying, no. Yeah, they're not,
they don't demand it.
Yeah.
They don't have that as a requirement for what they do, because, and this is, I said this a while ago, I'm an industry guy. I'm not a what color jersey are you wearing guy. I think they share that. Mm-hmm. There's enough work for all of us. Everybody wants to have their piece for sure, but I saw other brands of equipment in there today for sure. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see anybody's name at the top of the elevator and the lights, but theirs.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. Clifton said, I know this guy, when I was talking to him earlier about some of our industry challenges. So you were the guy, and I appreciate you coming.
I love working with Clifton. He's such a bright spot for us as a community. He's a bright spot today with his Uncle Sam uniform he's got on, which he and I talked about it earlier. When he decided to come into our industry on this side of it, the mm-hmm. social side, he said, I'm coming in hard.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a soft landing.
Yeah.
And that has resonated well. So I'm proud of him. He's a great guy, and I'm proud to have him as a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. He's amazing.
And now I owe him one because he introduced us. So
yeah, absolutely. Good. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. He's been very gracious. So good enough. Well, those of you that are here in the chat, I will be back next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. I think I'm flying solo next week, but one thing I did want to say, and you kind of hit on it earlier. We have met so many awesome people that I've got a list of guests for the next several months, and not just any old guest. Amazing, like you, just people that are the voices in our industry. There's like the lady that was here earlier. She's going to be on, and I'm going to save that. I'm not going to edify her yet, but we got some awesome guests coming. So that said, any parting words?
Well, I just appreciate you having me, first of all, but sure. I appreciate people that are at home tonight or on their way home, and they're taking time out of their personal life to make themselves better. So thank you for that. We all have to invest in each other. We have to invest in ourselves. Self-help, or, lifelong learning is what I call it. We have to keep doing it because we got to drive our profession forward.
Awesome. Good enough. Well, for the rest of you, I'll be seeing you next week. In the meantime, make it a great week. Take care.